Okay, I'm actually getting some sort of urgent text from Carlos. He says that something I've said recently is not scientifically accurate, but I don't have time to check what. Kellogg's isn't paying me to text. Or maybe they are. It's not clear what Kellogg's wants from us.
My husband, Carlos, whose long, perfect hair was looking unusually perfect, does not know what is causing these fracturing timelines. He has been busy in his lab saying that he is working on an incredibly important project related to this, and he needs to see it through. Carlos has reached out to me with a concern. He said he is busy at work on this problem, but given that events have been turning out with wildly different outcomes, how will we know which outcome is true? This day will end however it ends, he said. But how will we know the ending we experience is real? What if resolving this crisis is merely another splitting possibility, and at the same time there's an us still dealing with the crisis? And that is a very real concern. I guess I can only say that it's a gut thing. I feel like when this is resolved, we'll know the real series of events. We'll just know them, because they'll be the ones that actually happened. And Carlos tells me that gut feelings aren't scientific, but I said, well, what are guts made out of? Science, right? And he had to concede that point. Then I told him his short cropped hair looked more perfect than usual, and he blushed. Still, I must keep Carlos's concern in mind as this day wraps up. I'll need to pay attention and make sure that what is happening is the only version of that event, and there aren't other stray versions sprawling out their own timelines somewhere else. Listeners, I can't believe it. The masked figure all this time was Telly the barber. Yes, Telly, who soon after my Carlos came to town with his beautiful and perfect hair, gave Carlos just a hideous haircut. It was an affront to all that is good in this world. And in his rightful shame, Telly fled into the desert, howling his regret to the night sky and giving wild haircuts to the cacti. No one in town has spoken his name in years. And now here he is, apparently destroying our timelines. Is there no end to the crimes that Telly can commit? And Telly was weeping, and he shouted through the glass window of my booth, "I'm trying to make it right!" And he was fogging up the window, and that was annoying, and I could hardly hear him, so I told him to come inside. "I'm trying to make it right," he said at a more reasonable volume. "I've been trying to change the past so that I never gave that haircut. But it has all been going wrong. Instead of changing the moment of my vile haircut, I have been splitting every possible point of divergence in all of the timelines of Night Vale. This isn't what I wanted." Telly, what a mess. And that was when Carlos arrived, and I could tell he had come in a hurry because he was wearing his casual house lab coat, which he doesn't like to be seen in. He mostly wears it to bed or, when he's doing the dishes, but that was the least of it. His hair was going through a truly bizarre transformation. As I watched, it kept radically changing lengths and styles, from a mohawk to a shaved head to a gorgeous hair stretching halfway to the floor. Now, his hair could not stay the same for longer than a few seconds. And then Carlos said, "Well, hear for yourself."
Oh, Telly, I had thought it was me. I had thought it was my fault. In the lab, I had managed to track the source of the timeline divergence to soon after I came to town. And that made me afraid somehow that my presence was causing this. I was too ashamed to say so, even to my husband, because what would it mean if this town was rejecting me somehow? But now I understand. I got that haircut from you right around when I arrived. That's where the source of this is. And Telly, can I just let you know? I really liked that haircut.
But Telly wouldn't listen. He shouted, That haircut ruined my life. I regret it every day. I must fix it. He started fiddling with the device he had invented to change the past, and that is when things truly took a turn. Night Vale vanished, and the three of us were standing on an empty desert plain. And then Night Vale was back, but it was different. A neon-studded city at night. All futuristic flying cars and citizens with downturned eyes hurrying back to their dingy apartments. And then we were in space, somewhere in the far-flung battlefields of the blood space wars, and around us were explosions and thousands dying. And then we were back in the radio booth again, and Telly was weeping and weeping. And Carlos put his hand on Telly. "Stop," Carlos said. "Stop." And Telly stopped. Then Carlos said,
Listen, Telly, the haircut was great. I loved it. So maybe Cecil didn't like it. Maybe no one else in the entire universe liked it. I don't know. I don't care, because I loved it. And I got it for me. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You never did. Come back to us. Come back to us and restart your life. You were one of us all this time.
So Telly did. He moved back in from the desert and has reopened his barbershop. He has resumed friendships with people he had only thought hated him, but instead had been giving him his space. There had been a misapprehension on both sides, and that had led to years of disconnect. Years that were finally healing. I still think that haircut was a crime, but my husband tells me my opinion on that doesn't matter, so... The timelines of Night Vale have settled down. Everything is only happening once, and only in one way. It seems the day has been saved by Carlos's superhuman forgiveness and perfect hair. Or was it? Because as Carlos said earlier, how can we know that this isn't just one timeline?
In the end, Night Vale won, 52-45, earning the district title before the season even started. Ah, what an exciting game. Carlos and the rest of the family joined me, and we ate nachos and drank sodas and shouted cheers like, "Go Team Go!" and "Oh, blood!" and "Ooh, blood." Carlos even bought me one of those pointing foam fingers that says, "Someone talked. Identify the traitor." But now that I think of it, we do spend a lot of our days distracting ourselves from physical reality. Maybe we really can use this time to experience life more solidly in the physical world, the way our ancestors did. Who needs modern conveniences when we have each other, right? Hold your loved ones close tonight. After all, you have nothing better to do. I'm coming home now, Carlos. I know you can't hear me. No one can hear me. The power's out here at the station just like it is everywhere else. We haven't been broadcasting anything for days now. I don't know any astronomers, but I do know a scientist. My husband Carlos has been the leading scientific mind in Night Vale since we started dating almost 6 years ago. Carlos says that he has been studying an interesting meteorite he found out in the sand wastes and scrublands beyond Night Vale. He believes this particular rock is a piece of the moon. Standing before a giant wall of blinking lights, flickering screens, and intermittent beeps, Carlos determined that this piece of the moon broke off only 1 month ago. But this is impossible, because no one can remember seeing the moon breaking apart in the sky. Well, maybe we were all asleep when it happened, I told Carlos as I dabbed away a small crumb from a cheese Danish that had gotten stuck in his beard. Oh, fun fact, Carlos grew a beard. And I have never liked beards on men, but now
I do. It's gotten 2 thin silver racing stripes down the chin, and the hair is so soft. We've been married over 2 years, and every day I fall more in love. Oh, right, the moon. Okay, good God. Always with the moon. Yeah. Carlos has been studying an unusual number of empty homes and businesses about town. He noticed that the houses on either side of us are completely empty. But he didn't remember them being empty before. He remembers us having neighbors, but he couldn't name a single thing about them. He believes this might be related to the damaged moon. Whatever happened a month ago to the moon immediately caused us all to forget it, because something in our timeline changed. Carlos said, "Perhaps we are not forgetting people and events. Perhaps they never existed at all." His eyes were cloudy with pensive thought, and I touched his furry cheek and said, "You'll save us, hon. I know you will." He smiled and asked if I'd be willing to reach out to archaeology professor Harrison Kipp again. Carlos had been communicating with Kipp about this very issue, but now emails to Harrison keep bouncing back, and his phone number is no longer in the phone company's database of working numbers. I laughed and said, "Carlos, I don't know who Harrison Kipp is." Carlos looked worried and said that he wasn't sure he did either, but he felt like he should. Carlos and I have a dog. His name is Aubergine because he is purple and European, and Aubie is adorable and we love him dearly. I mean, I wasn't into the idea of having to care for a dog, but Carlos strongly urged this case one morning over breakfast when he said, "I think we should get a dog," and 20 minutes later, we were leaving the SPCA with our adopted pet. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry for the dead air, listeners. I was playing a recording of an interview I did. Wait. Nope. I just checked. There's no tape in the player at all. I thought I had been talking with... Who would I have been talking to? Maybe it was my husband Carlos reporting on his findings about the damage done to our moon, or maybe it was nothing at all. Well, let us forget that we forgot. According to James, thousands of people have gone missing from Night Vale because they never existed or never moved here in the first place. The general had leapt in time to successfully stop the Polonians from ever reaching Earth, but the change in the timeline caused Night Vale to change too. Listeners, this may seem strange, but perhaps there are people you once knew, family you once lived with, places you were in, all of which are gone and without your knowing. I have tried hard to think of any memory, of any experience or person I have lost in the last month, but I can think of none. I told James Peters that perhaps the change in timeline did not matter if no one knew what they had lost, if no one noticed any change. James said, "Cecil, I just don't know. I don't know. Maybe if we had a scientific perspective on this, we could better understand how this is affecting us as a community." And I said, I didn't know any scientists. Not personally, anyway. Stay tuned next for Conspiring to Love, our new relationship advice show, which as a lifelong bachelor sounds like something I should check out. A few weeks ago, I was a tad too revealing about my personal life, and I mentioned, in passing, that I am a perennial bachelor. It's true. I've never had a long-term serious relationship, but honestly, it's fine. I get out. I see people. You do not need to try to set me up on blind dates with friends, relatives, ancestral ghosts. Thank you. I'm doing okay. In fact, I had a date recently. His name is Carlos. He says he's a scientist. Well, we have all been scientists at one point or another in our lives. He has perfect hair, a perfect lab coat, and teeth like a military cemetery. The date started well. We went to dinner at Big Rico's Pizza. He had originally suggested Gino's Italian dining experience and bar and grill, the fanciest restaurant in town, but since it was a first date, I suggested something more casual. And that was when things started to go wrong. Before we had even placed our orders, Carlos already seemed disappointed, which in turn disappointed me. Then there was dinner. I was trying to tell Carlos about my job here at the station, about my family and interests, and he was like, I know, Cecil, we're in love. You and I are in love. You just don't remember it. And I told him, you're cute, but this is our first date, so let's take it slow. And then he looked sad, and I quickly finished my pizza, and we left. All is stasis. Nothing has been taken from my life. Okay, this is getting annoying. So the guy I was telling you about earlier, Carlos, he's been texting me this whole show saying he wants to see me again. Let's see. Something. My timeline is still wrong. I should have a sister named Abby. Here's a photo of her with some kid. My mother died. I'm supposedly afraid of mirrors, and he and I are actually married. This is ridiculous. Okay, now he's texting me a picture of a dog. Our little puppy, Aubergine, it says. In the picture, Carlos is holding the dog. That's weird. I just had a strange feeling. What's that term? Jamais vu, I think, where you remember something that never happened. Outside my window, I see the emissary, their oblong mirrored face pressed against the glass, each hand raised to their head to block out glare from the sun. I'm waving to the emissary now. Hello, emissary, I said just now. What is the French term for remembering something you've never actually experienced? I said even louder, wondering if the emissary can hear me through the window and that thick helmet. Also, is Aubergine a good name for a dog? I think it is. I called once more, just to start a decent conversation, because I was getting creeped out by the sight of a silent astronaut peering at me through my window. I will tell you about the emissary in a moment, but first, I must tell you that Carlos called me. Here's his voicemail.
Cecil, I'm calling for personal reasons. I'm calling to tell you that I love you, that I have loved you almost since the first day I met you nearly 7 years ago. I didn't know anyone in Night Vale, and you were the first person to take any interest in my studies. It's not easy feeling alone, but within a year I wasn't, because I was with you. And now we are married. Well, at least in my timeline, we're married. We have been married. And we have a beautiful puppy named Aubergine, a house, a relationship. You have a sister. And, you have a brother-in-law, too, and a niece who is a talented athlete and enormously just a kind young woman. And we have... Oh, you're going to play this on air, aren't you? Oh, of course you are. Well, never mind. Anyway, somehow you don't know any of this? I've been working nights and days trying to repair this break in continuity, and I haven't slept much because I can't sleep until we're back in the same timeline. But I can't find anything that will fix this. I don't know what else to do other than to just say, trust me. I will start over. I will go to Rico's on another first date. I will pretend to hear about your life for the first time. I will tell you about mine for the 1,000th time. It won't be the same for me, but it will still be you. And that's all that matters. You. You're the one. Oh God, this must sound crazy. You barely know me. And I'm coming off as desperate, but it's because I am. Please call me.
And I did. Call him back. And I said, I love you too. Babe, I love your beard. I love our dog. I love our life together. Minutes before that, I did not feel that way. I did not know about my life with Carlos because it had never happened in my history. It was in those minutes, though, that the emissary spoke to me. She told me about my husband, Carlos. I knew that name, but did not feel love for it. She took my hand and told me to look at the moon. There was a thick wedge missing from it. I never noticed that the moon was broken. Eunomia said, I will leave now, and I will undo what has been done, and your life will return to how it was. The memories of what Eunomia said to me, the memories of my life without my family, are fading quickly. Night Vale returns to normal, whatever that means. I told Carlos I was so sorry for causing him such pain. I cannot ever know how difficult that must have been. He only tilted his head and said, already forgotten. I wasn't sure if he was being literal.
Listeners, it is a very special day today. That's right, it's Carlos and I's 6th anniversary. Yes, we count that first night at the Arby's, looking up at those lights as the start. And why not? Something has to be the start. And that felt like the first moment of it, the rest of our lives. It's especially emotional, this anniversary, because recently we did not exist for a brief period. Then we both did exist again, but I had forgotten about our entire life together. I have since remembered, and it has been especially tender between us. Such things happen in any marriage that has gone on for enough years. And so it served us as a good reminder of who we are in each other's lives. But it's not just a special day for us. Oh no, it's also, oh wow, the 30th birthday of a legend of stage and screen, Mr. Lee Marvin. Today is a special day, Night Vale. Lee Marvin, star of stage and screen, is, oh wow, turning 31 today. A few minutes ago, I got the most interesting voicemail from my most interesting husband, Carlos. It's our 6th anniversary today, you know? Anyway, he was so excited. I've never heard him talk so fast in his life. Carlos said he opened the clock that was on our mantelpiece at home, the one that was given to him by his mother the day he received his PhD, the one he brought with him to Night Vale, the one that, after having come to Night Vale, he opened to find that it was full of moss and fur and human teeth. Time doesn't work in Night Vale, he had realized, and he mourned the transformation of both the clock and his experience of the days and years of his life. But he still believes in keeping his possessions in perfect condition, and so today he opened the clock to brush its teeth, only to find it was full of gears and a battery and was ticking away. He measured the movement of its minute hand against the sun and found that the sun, instead of disappearing at wildly different times, was setting on a normal schedule. He called me up, his voice cracking with excitement, bordering on terror. Cecil, he said to me, Cecil, time is normal in Night Vale. Well, it is night, Night Vale. Soon the sun will rise, and we know exactly what time that will happen. Our lives have all lurched forward. Is that good? Stay tuned next for exactly what was scheduled to run next at the exact time it was scheduled to do so. And from my mouth to your ears even after all of these years. Good night, Night Vale. Good night.